What the heck is happening, everybody? Welcome into the Pack-A-Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. Thanks so much for joining me today, as this may end up being my last episode of the Pack-A-Day video podcast. Maybe my last episode covering the Packers because, as you may have seen me note on Twitter, I watch practice for 3 days live at practice, and Jordan Love struggles for 3 days, and then I miss a day of practice and he goes and balls the heck out, apparently according to all sources. So if I go to practice tomorrow and he struggles again, I think the only appropriate thing to do is to have a self-imposed ban from me attending practices and games for the Packers, because sometimes if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. I say obviously in jest, but love hearing that Jordan Love had a phenomenal day at practice. And I know a handful of you were frustrated yesterday because I attached about 30 caveats to the fact that Jordan Love, at least from our standpoint and our vision, the media on the sidelines vision of practice, seemed to very much struggle during yesterday's practice as well as during the two OTA sessions. And for those of you who are snarky enough to say maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about, this was not just me saying that. This was a multitude of people that I had talked to after practice that thought Jordan Love very much struggled on day one of rookie minicamp. But by all accounts and by all reports, he absolutely tore it up on day two. And that's why I mentioned what I mentioned yesterday. This is the life of a 22-year-old quarterback in the NFL. It's the life of most quarterbacks in the NFL. Some days you're good, some days you're bad, and you're still learning and developing. When you get to the point of the Russell Wilsons and Aaron Rodgers, obviously there become a heck of a lot more good days than bad days. But when you are taking your first reps with the first team and your first mini camps and your first OTAs, this is what we expect. If you go back to yesterday and remember what I said, I wasn't concerned per se over Jordan Love. I wasn't, looking for reasons to tear him down. But the one thing that I wanted was a couple of throws here or there that I could latch onto and say, all right, there we go. That's the Jordan Love that we have the ability to see. He just needs to kind of focus everything in that direction. And all right, if I've seen him now make throws that he can go out and play at this level. But in 3 practices prior to day 2 of minicamp, I didn't see any of those. It was a lot of checkdowns, a lot of quick throws, didn't really attempt anything past 5 yards. And when he did, he was mostly inaccurate with it. On day 2, he certainly seemed to make up for that in a variety of different ways. And that's all I was waiting for. I don't expect him to be superstar Jordan Love on day 1 of mini camps or third practice open to the media and his first time really playing in team activities in year 2 with the first team and the starters. Nobody should have that level of expectation. I didn't think prior to today or prior to day 2 of minicamp that it was unreasonable to say, hey, I just want something. I just want something to latch onto to say, okay, we're good here. But on day 2, Love, again, by all accounts, was phenomenal. 20 of 31 passing in 11 on 11 drills. So again, going back to the fact that with Aaron Rodgers being out, these snaps are insanely valuable for Jordan Love. And the fact that he's able to get almost every snap in team activities during these OTAs and mini camps will help him tremendously. The fact that he's able to get it with the number 1 offense will help him tremendously. The fact that he's able to get immediate feedback from his coaches and that they're not trying to focus on what Aaron's doing or what really any of the other quarterbacks are doing. Make no mistake about it. Blake is there. Benkert's there. Jake Dolagala was there. This is Jordan Love's show, and they are focusing these practices upon Jordan Love. And again, 20 of 31 passing in 11 on 11s, leads a winning 2-minute drive where he went 7 out of 10 in a 70-yard drive, capped off with a touchdown pass to Allen Lazard. Apparently, Lazard made a leaping reception, had a 30-yard wheel route to A.J. Dillon, a free play, 45 yards to Allen Lazard, a 30-yard corner route to Winfrey, a 30-yard sideline route to Aaron Jones. At one point, tight ends coach Justin Outen was apparently fanning him off with his play sheet to try to cool him down a little bit because he was so much on fire. That's the type of day that it was for Jordan Love. I've been asking for just one of those throws. It sounds like there were 5 or 6 of those during practice on Wednesday. So that is fantastic news for Packer fans. However, I want to go back to the same caveats that I said yesterday. whether it was amazing practice, whether it was a terrible practice, whether it was something in the middle, take these with a grain of salt until we get not even into training camp, until we start seeing him in some games, whether it's preseason, whether he's starting week 1. That's when we can start making some evaluations. And even then, it's going to take more time for us to get any sort of full evaluation on Jordan Love. But make no mistake about it, this is some good news at least, and this is probably what Jordan Love needed. Listen, when you are a young quarterback or a young player in the NFL, you just want some level of confidence. You want something that you can build off of, something that you can take into the next day. Those first few practices, Jordan Love didn't have a ton to build off of. This is something that the coaches and he and his teammates can focus in on and say, okay, there's something here. We can work with this. And again, for Jordan Love, it has to bring a ton of confidence. I want to go back for a second to one of those things, the 45-yard free play to Allen Lazard. This is something that you go back and read my notes from when I reviewed Jordan Love in college. He was very adept at drawing players off sides. Now, we know the cadence king has been in Green Bay for the last decade plus. There are very few college quarterbacks that have a cadence and the ability to draw players off sides like Jordan Love had in college. It was a plus trait for him coming out. I actually saw him draw somebody off sides the other day. I don't know if it ended up in a free play. I can't recall it. But the fact that he got another free play, got someone to jump off, and then capped it off with a 45-yard throw to Allen Lazard, those are things that we saw in college. That's what you love to see, him carrying over those things that he can be successful with now at the NFL level. Again, even though it's only a mini camp, it's definitely worth noting. Rachel Hotmeyer, who was at practice, which if you don't follow her, make sure to do so. She said, this is a quote from her on Twitter, I realistically don't know how it could have been any better, talking about Jordan Love at practice. Go listen to Rob Demovsky's hit from ESPN. Look at what I wanted to say yesterday is, if for those of you who are doubting me to say that Jordan Love was struggling in the first 3 days of practice, go through the first 3 days that media was open to practice, whoever you're following, whatever your favorite Packers beat writer is, and try to find anything from team drills that was tweeted out as a positive about Jordan Love. There just wasn't much there. The exact opposite yesterday. You go through every beat writer's stories and Twitter mentions and everything, and it is a laundry list of glowing items from how Jordan Love looked on day 2 of minicamp. So really great stuff to hear. Obviously, this is a great stepping stone and something that he can use, but now it's the old Mike McCarthyism, stacking success. Can you bring it into the next day? And again, my future with as a Packer reporter depends on it. He has to, if I go out tomorrow and he struggles again, it's not going to look great. So Jordan, if you're listening, you need a really big day of practice on Thursday. I will be there on Thursday to cover things. So make sure to go out and have a big day of practice, because otherwise it's going to look like I'm the jinx, which isn't a great look. So hoping that Jordan Love definitely has a really big day on Thursday. And again, hearing about some of these big throws certainly is a positive development. And again, that's what you want to see. You just want to see those opportunities for growth and him consistently building and hopefully getting it to that next level. And he had a post-practice presser as well. Thought he did a really nice job in that. Obviously this is his first time talking to the media since I think training camp of last year. So getting to hear from him again was great. And I thought he handled the media session really well as well. So really great stuff from Jordan Love throughout the day. Some other notes that I picked up on, Juwan Winfrey, the wide receiver, had a really strong practice, it sounded like, as well. I know he had the 30-yard corner route. It sounded like he had another really crisp out route that he caught from Jordan Love as well. Winfrey's an interesting guy. So when the Broncos found, I think it was Philip Lindsay, if I remember correctly, when they found him, John Elway was like ecstatic. He's like, this guy is going to be a stud. Like, he's a really fantastic running back. Like, the NFL screwed up by not picking him earlier. The next draft, they drafted Winfrey ahead of where teams were expected. And he's like, this is this year's Philip Lindsay. He's like, I don't care what people say. This guy's going to be an absolute stud. Like, I have, like, as what I felt about Lindsay last year, I feel about Juwan Winfrey this year. Like, he was super high on him coming out of the draft. Of course, had a nondescript couple seasons, ends up out of Denver, signs with the Packers practice squad last year, got a cup of coffee on the roster when he was a call-up. Didn't really do much. Now is back for this season. So interested to see if, again, he's another player who can stack success. But I would, love to see a player like that, young player with some talent, stepping up, making some plays. We'll see if he can carry that over. Another player, it sounds like, had a really nice day was Jair Alexander. Again, stacking success easily for him from day one of minicamp to day two. Again, you get a chance to watch Jair Alexander in practice, do it. The guy is phenomenal to watch. He consistently makes plays. It's why he's one of the best, if not the best corner in the business. And again, this should be of no surprise. It doesn't matter if it's an OTA, a mini camp, a training camp, a game, a preseason, a postseason. He's going to show up and do his job. And if you're across from him, he's going to shut you the heck down. And it sounds like that was the case on day two as well. A little bit different lineup for the offensive line. Billy Turner was at left tackle. John Runyon Jr. still at left guard. Josh Myers still at center. Lucas Patrick still at right guard. But Royce Newman gets the start with the starters at right tackle in this practice. So Turner moving to left tackle, Newman moving to right tackle, starting at right tackle. Ben Braden moved down a slot in this individual practice. So again, Royce Newman here, I think the big takeaway. He has the opportunity, to get time at the second team right tackle yesterday, then time with the first team at right guard, and then right tackle with the first team on Wednesday's practice. So love to see that he's getting involved. I asked Matt LaFleur about him post-practice. Sounds like there's going to be great competition. Didn't commit to too much, but again, it says something when you're a rookie and you're getting reps with the first team this early in mini camps and OTAs. Devin Funchess did drop down with an injury, returned, and it sounds like he fell out again. So we'll see if he is practicing on Thursday. That'll be one, seemed like fairly minor injury to monitor, but one we'll want to kind of take a look at nonetheless and see if he's practicing on Thursday. A couple other news and notes. Zadarius Smith returned to practice, so he was there on Wednesday. Devondre Campbell showed up at practice and officially signed, and then Mike Weber was released with the addition of Devondre Campbell. Weber was in a tough spot, obviously behind Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon as the top two, but then you had guys like Dexter Williams, Kylan Hill, and then, of course, you got Patrick Taylor as well. Three guys who I think are more than enough to compete for that number 3 running back spot. Maybe they keep 4, but just not a ton of snaps or, playing time to go around for Mike Weber. And just kind of watching those guys in practice, he was probably the guy that stood out as on the outside looking in at this point. So they move on from Weber, bring in Devondre Campbell, who, again, I'm excited to break down some tape on sometime in the next week and a half. And as soon as I do so, I will certainly be bringing you that here on the Pack-A-Day podcast. If you haven't followed along, make sure to do so and subscribe. Make sure to check out today's audio version of the podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. I'll be right back here tomorrow breaking down any of my notes from Minicamp Day 3. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.